Hi there, my name is John Hodgson, and I'm one of the illustrators working on The One Ring for Cubicle 7 and Sophisticated Games. And I'm back today in conversation with lead designer of the game, Francesco Nepitello.
Hi.
And today we're talking about the Loremaster screen and Lake Town sourcebook. This one is written completely by yourself, isn't it, Francesco?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's not a long book, but it's going to be 32 pages. But I think it's fairly dense. When I started working on it, I thought it was just a bonus thing we were doing to accompany the screen. But then when we actually started working on it, I really tried to make sure that every page of it's very usable. So it's really crunchy. I was looking at the PDF right now, and there's really something to be used in every page. So it's not simply fluff, as they say, but it's really a lot of stuff. But we will be going through it in detail in a few moments, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely packed. I was thinking then, in a sort of editorial sense of we need to draft Paul Bourne, who again did layout. We need to draft him to talk about how dense it is, because I think he had his work cut out in fitting it all in, which is great. I mean, that's the place you want to be, isn't it? You know, with the loads and loads of material in there. So it opens with a description in real detail of Lake Town. How did you go about creating that stuff to make suitable for role-playing games? Because the text itself, as we know, doesn't have a huge amount about rebuilt Lake Town post Smaug.
Yeah, I think that the key with everything that involves Tolkien's writings, is to look at the sources. So not simply limit yourself to what Tolkien actually said, put to writing, but to try to investigate, to study what he was probably referring to when he wrote the books. So as always, we went back to all the books of biographies and stuff, and the letters of Tolkien. So there's references about Tolkien probably thinking about what was at the time was the idea of lake dwellers, ancient lake dwellers, building villages on top of wooden pilings. So I try to study a bit of that, and also, since Lake Town is a bit of a strange mix, because it has references to an older time, but at the same time, it's one of the most modern places in Middle-earth. A little bit like the Shire, because the way the Hobbit book was written, it was a bit more light-hearted than the Lord of the Rings. So Tolkien probably let himself run with imagination a bit more. So we have this strange place where there's no king. It's a more modern type of government form in there, merchants, the idea of a more sophisticated culture, even if it's there on the fringe of merchants. So I studied a bit how cities in the Middle Ages worked, and I tried to put as many plausible references as I could in there. So I studied how the city of York developed during Saxon times, and then after Norman times. I also referenced a lot my own city, my own hometown, Venice, because of course, even if it's not on the lake, it was a merchant city, so it was very close to the idea of Lake Town for several reasons. So it was really interesting. It was really nice to find things that could work in that environment without breaking the mood by fitting seamlessly with what Tolkien said about the city.
I know we. It was funny. I was smiling to myself when you mentioned York because I looked at York a lot. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that. I looked at York a lot for artwork inspiration, and that happens time and time again, doesn't it? That we go looking in the same places. Well, that's cool.
If you want just a word about why we picked Lake Town, just I think that Lake Town works well, as a sort of a modular thing that I mean, the game is out since a few months now, and we cannot really say where people is playing, even if the One Ring is a focused game, so it's based in Winterland, but Winterland is still quite a big region. So we picked Lake Town because we think that it has the most potential to become a kind of a default, you say default, starting point, or a place where adventurers may go back after they have accomplished something elsewhere. Because it's a very cosmopolitan city, very open, doesn't bow to any king. They have their own government. So even if you are a woodman or a Bjorning or a dwarf from the Lonely Mountain or an elf, or even a hobbit from the Shire, you know that you can go to Lake Town without feeling out of place. So we really try to make sure that we gave enough information on the place to be usable for everyone, for the lawmasters to come up with new ideas for adventures, and a lot of material for players to find their own way, to write their own story. You have even ways to buy a house in Lake Town now. Not really buy, but to find a place to live in Lake Town. Uh, and also, yes, and for example, also a new fully playable culture, Lakeman. So when we set upon the idea of building Lake Town, we started basically from what seemed to us probably the most immediate thing to do. So how the city looked, and so with your work.
Yeah, that was the craziest job I probably have ever done. Was this huge? There's a huge, we keep calling it a map, but it's like a sort of 3D view of the whole of Lake Town. Yeah, and we started with that, didn't we?
It's your. I mean, we can only blame you because you made such a nice painting for Lake Town, the one that is featured in the book in the core set, that really begged to be developed into the full panorama of the city. So you can really, everyone who has the core set for the One Ring now can look at the Lake Town painting and try to imagine how the city will look if you zoom out. And what John did, and now we have a full 100% coverage of Lake Town down to the smallest building, and then I tried to make justice to that painting and described all the quarters of the city to tell exactly what is what in the painting. So I think that if you play with that and you have the map in front of you and you will have your characters going there for different reasons, and we gave plenty of reasons in the book accompanying the screen to do that, you will really start to feel that you are playing in a very believable and living world.
Yeah,
So
I was really impressed reading through it that there is a whole section things to do while in Lake Town, and it's really play driven, isn't it? Rather than just you could have quite a dry textbook about a place, whereas it's very much centered on what you do there, which I think is really cool.
to start from the beginning, as you say, the first part of it, that's basically the description of the map of Lake Town. Uh, I didn't want to limit myself only to give a description of what inside the merchant district or the other quarter or the residential district. Every paragraph of description is accompanied by some sample non-player characters, for example. So you have merchants, you have dwarven smiths, you have artisans, and you have the town guard. and that is complete with stats, but also with additional information about the type of people living and working in there. So we have another layer of information about how to recreate the place, and that's in the first part. Then we have the second chapter that is called Things to Do While in Lake Town, that basically gives more fellowship phase undertakings, the things that players can choose to do when they're not adventuring, so they can go to the biggest market in the northern world, that is basically the market pool area in Lake Town, and find better equipment, items, and stuff. We have since many people seem to be interested in that, we also developed. We got some additional details about the monetary system, because, of course, since it's a merchant city, Lake Town will need that, and that's also thanks to Shane Ivey that started me on that, and it's though that type of additional information that really gives you more. It's not simply playing. It's something that really builds upon the believability of the place.